Hey, really glad to see you. Thanks for coming by. And yeah, this topic is a good one, right? Healing emotional trauma. I mean, I had to wake up to understand when I was emotionally traumatized because I was quite shut down. Sometimes that happens growing up in a toxic family system or an environment that's not stable or nurturing. And I think I was in my early 20s when I first went for professional help, and getting to my emotions was very difficult, like understanding more than happy, sad, mad, glad was a lot to learn. And it took me a bit of time to unravel the importance of it. I was drinking to cover my trauma, and I was using food and other substances like exercise to cover trauma. So once I woke up to understanding that I was being emotionally traumatized in the moment, it was fairly straightforward to come up with a couple of tools that really helped. And I want to share all that today. So the first step is to understand that I have been emotionally traumatized. And for me, generally, I stop breathing. I feel a shame and a guilt and a fear in my body. And sometimes I don't even feel like I'm in my body. I feel like I'm disassociated from my body. I'm almost split out of my body. So I have to realize what state I'm in. And if I am with another person or speaking with another person and realize I'm being emotionally traumatized, and it may or may not be something that they say themselves specifically, or it could be a past memory bubbling up to the surface as a result of the circumstance or the scenario. Once I realize it, I now am able to say, hey, I need to take a moment out, or hey, I'm going to get back with you later, or I need to excuse myself, and know that that's really a complete sentence, like the word no and no, thank you. Those are both complete sentences. So I extricate myself from the storyline, the scenario, the circumstance as gracefully as I can. And I don't point blame, and I don't immediately speak when I'm emotionally traumatized, because it generally takes me some time to process it. And as I've gotten more evolved with working with it, I'm able to say it in the moment, but that's for another video. So I notice the signs. I've been emotionally traumatized. I extricate myself from the circumstance, and I find some space to be with myself. And I breathe into my heart. And that's where I find my inner child, that sweet being that for some of us, it's light, but I connect with my heart and that space, and I breathe and I start to soothe that area, because that's generally where I'm holding the emotional trauma. And it can also be in my solar plexus, which is top of the rib cage, just below my breastbone. And sometimes I'll take a hand and put it on my heart, or I'll put my hand on my solar plexus and say, it's okay. And just repeating, it's okay, starts to soothe me in the moment. And then I check back in with my breathing, and usually I'm breathing more deeply and more aware of my breath. I'm also generally coming back into my body, and those sensations of shame, or the heat of embarrassment, or the guilt. Like sometimes I feel guilty, even though I've been traumatized, the guilt, I'm able to connect with it and dial it down just by breathing and repeating that I'm okay. And it really helps calm my central nervous system in the moment. And then once I do that, I can go back and deal with the circumstance. But generally, I don't do that before I speak with a trusted confidant. If I'm working professionally with a person, I'll have a session and work through it. And sometimes I journal, I write about the scenario, what happened, and how I feel. Sometimes I take a walk, and that really clears my head, just feeling the air and feeling the ground beneath my feet connects me back into the now moment, as opposed to that moment that I was emotionally traumatized. And sometimes I can go back to an actual incident, maybe it's from childhood, um, that intensified the feeling of trauma. But I found as I've gone on in time, that's less necessary um, to really connect into. And there's more at my site, susangold.us. So check it out. If this has been helpful, subscribe, share it with somebody that can utilize it. But I don't use any type of medication. I don't align myself with that. There have been periods when I've been clinically depressed, and that lasted for a period of 10 years that I did use medication off and on so I could create a stable platform. But I've learned enough about my emotional trauma and my trauma in general and my depressions that I'm no longer in need of any type of medication. So we're all in this together. Just know you're not alone. And I hope you all stay tuned and subscribe and share if you liked what I had to say today. And I look forward to seeing you again.